My name is Mikkel McCoyne, and I'm the program director of the Master of Nutritional Sciences and Dietetics program at UC Berkeley. Thank you so much for being here to learn more about our program and to get all of your questions answered. I have with me here today Mary Lesser, who is our capstone coordinator and an assistant adjunct professor, Alicia Henson, who is our program education specialist and program coordinator, and Carol Sally, who is an MNSD student, new last name, so I'm still practicing, but she is one of our MNSD students, and she's here to share the student perspective. So thank you, everybody, for being here. So we will go ahead and get started. We are an Ascend accredited graduate program, and I'll explain what that means throughout this entire presentation. Okay, so today we also just let's hold the questions till the end, and we're going to have plenty of time for questions at the end. So today we're all going to cover the program and the curriculum for the program, our summer research experience that we think is quite unique and a wonderful opportunity for our students. We're going to talk a little bit about how we support our students and what it means to be a member of our community and to be a part of the Berkeley community and what's going on campus. We're going to swing back around and talk about fees and financing, and then admissions and the application as well. And then Carol's going to get on and talk a little bit about her perspective, the student perspective, and then we'll open it up to question and answer. So let's go ahead and get started. I always like to start with our mission and our goals because this is where we're headed with our program. So really our mission, very clear, it's to prepare graduates for practice as registered dietitian nutritionists. So 100%, if you want to become a dietitian, this is a program for you. If you do not want to become a dietitian, this is not the program for you. So very, very clear there. So hopefully everybody here is interested in earning that credential. But our mission is that we want our graduates to achieve the knowledge and the skills to actively contribute to the nutrition and dietetics field through practice, research, leadership, and policy, and become dedicated and inquisitive professionals. So I underlined the key words here that I think are really important in this actively contributing to our field. Everybody in our program, our instructors and our administrators are really actively involved in our profession, and we care deeply about it, and we want to foster these feelings in our students as well. We want to bring in students who are excited to become dietitians, who really want to participate in the field beyond just their facilities that they work in, but really shape the field of nutrition and dietetics. And we want our graduates to do this at their facilities through their practice, but also through research, by being leaders and engaging in policy as well. Through our program, we hope that our graduates will become dedicated and inquisitive professionals. So just always asking questions, asking the whys, wanting to know more, seeking opportunities, and really engaging with the profession, because there's so many opportunities within our profession to practice, so many different practice areas, so many different leadership opportunities. The goal is that our graduates will be confident healthcare professionals. So that is really important to us. With all of our curriculum, we're, going back to building confidence, making sure our students are ready to be active and confident healthcare professionals that are prepared for practice, and that they have a high commitment to a standard of professional behavior. So a personal commitment to a high standard of professional behavior. So just very professional, engaged with their facilities. Again, it just goes back to really participating in the profession. And we, build this professional behavior through our courses and through some of the activities that we have in our program. So it's wonderful to start here and just kind of think about where we're headed with this program and why we've designed it the way that we have and the opportunities that we have here at Berkeley and in our program. And you'll hear more about that as we go through it. So some highlights about our program. So first, we are an Ascend accredited graduate program. That these types of programs used to be called future education model programs. So you may have heard that term. Our accrediting agency is phasing that out and just adopting the term graduate program. And basically what this means is that we follow the graduate level standards from our accrediting agency. So all of our curriculum is written at the graduate level, and we follow the standards of that graduate level curriculum. And another big part of it is that we integrate both the graduate level coursework and the internship hours into one cohesive program. So we have everything that you need to become a registered dietitian nutritionist. So we have the accredited coursework, we have the graduate degree, and we have that supervised practice and those internship hours. So when you do finish this program, you are eligible to take the CDR registration examination to become a registered dietitian. So once you pass that exam, you will earn the credential of registered dietitian, which is RD or RDN, registered dietitian nutritionist. We are a professional graduate program training you to become a expert in food and nutrition and dietetics. And so students that graduate earn the designation of MNSD. That's a Master's in Nutritional Sciences and Dietetics. So when you finish, you are your name and then an MNSD RDN. And those are the credentials that you earn through our program and passing that CDR exam. So what is our focus area? We cover all area of dietetics, and we do believe that is general enough for all interests, but we do have more of a focus on research and clinical dietetics. We want to build those areas. We believe that's the foundation of dietetics and of our practice. And again, we're training you to be confident healthcare providers that can, walk into that hospital and work with that interdisciplinary team and really know, the whys and what you're doing. And so that is our focus area, and you'll see how we kind of hone in on those areas as we speak more. So our program is local in the San Francisco Bay Area, and all of the preceptors for that supervised practice experience have already been identified. So we have over 50 plus facilities, 100 plus preceptors out there collaborating with us to train the next generation of dietitians. And they all are just so excited to have students in their facilities. Right now, they're all lined up doing interviews with our current first year students to get them into their facilities so they can do their training. And our second year students are in their hospitals doing their training right now. So you don't have any of the stress of like finding preceptors for your supervised practice. We've found them all for you. The program is completed over 21 months. So it's 2 semesters and then a summer, and then 2 additional semesters. So just under 2 years, full years, and it's 21 months, and it's a very busy program. We have that coursework and supervised practice and some research, so there's a lot to do in these 21 months. Go through that over the next few slides. We offer enrichment opportunities to really, again, help our students actively engage with the profession and their learning and their knowledge. And you'll hear about that in just a little bit. And as I mentioned, we're in the San Francisco Bay Area, we're in Berkeley, but we place students throughout the Bay Area for their supervised practice. And, it's a highlight, it's beautiful, it's diverse, it's urban, it's a wonderful place to be. Just to share some of our photos, we have a brand new teaching kitchen that was opened August 1st. This is the best picture I could find of it, but it is fresh and wonderful space to be in. Mary's actually in there right now. Maybe she could give us a little picture of it when she jumps on and does her portion. This other picture is one of our students presenting on their summer capstone research project, and this bottom picture is a picture of our students on a field trip.
I could actually give a quick show now because I'm going to duck out of here to a new location.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Another class is going to start in like 15 minutes, so I don't want to interrupt them. So here, let me remove my background so that can see it. I got to go back to my regular Zoom. I'll work on removing my background and you can keep going.
Oh, okay.
So go ahead. You can keep speaking.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. All right, so next up is talking about our curriculum. So our curriculum is made up of our courses and then our supervised practice. So this slide reviews the coursework that we require. So one thing that our students say that they really love, and we think it's a really important part of the program, is really that what we do in our courses is all applicable to dietetics. So a lot of practice-based, learning, problem sets, case studies, designing projects that could be implemented in facilities. Lots of discussion time as well, because we are training you to get out there and work in these facilities. Our classes tend to be a little bit longer because we are building skills and students are in these classes working on projects together, collaborating. But students really like it because they can see how the content is going to be directly related to what they're doing in their future careers and profession. So we don't do a lot of like memorization and testing. We do have some of it, but for the most part, it's discussions and projects. And Carol can talk all about that if she wants to. So then I like to break up our courses in terms of sort of the series and the way that we have it organized. So we have a clinical series, which starts with a metabolism course. So we do want all of our students to be on the same page in terms of metabolism. And so they start the first semester with a metabolism course. They're also taking that first semester nutritional status assessment and the lifespan, to begin to think about clinically assessing patients, which is what we do in that clinical setting. The second semester, we have a medical nutrition therapy course, and we also have a unique course called the Metabolic Basis of Human Health and Disease, where our Senate faculty lectures on the metabolic processes that occur with various metabolic changes and diseases. And then after that, our students are prepared and ready to go into their clinical rotations, which basically happens the second year. So these other courses happen that first year, and then in that second year, they go into those clinical rotations. So from the beginning, you're in metabolism, and you're ending the program either in your inpatient or outpatient supervised practice. So every semester, you're actually engaging with clinical nutrition in some way. We also have a research series in our curriculum where that first semester we have a research methods course, and Mary can talk more about that. It's supported by the course that I already mentioned, the Metabolic Basis of Human Health and Disease. And then we go into our capstone research experience. And then to support the research in our department, every course, the instructors are talking about research. They are presenting our, professional guidelines, asking students to evaluate studies, present on studies. And then we have a weekly department seminar where researchers from really around the nation come and talk about their research and what they're doing. It's often quite metabolic focused and basic science focused. So it's a lot, but it's a wonderful opportunity to just like hone in your science skills and continue to support your learning in that arena. Our graduate students in our PhD program also present their research every week. And so that's another opportunity to continue to learn what's going on in the department and learn about the research that's going on at Berkeley. Series, which is our food systems management series. So students start their first semester in a food service management course and learn how large food service operations operate and provide food to hundreds of people and meet the nutrition and dietary standards of those facilities. And that class is actually taught in that new teaching kitchen space. And then spring semester, we have a foods course where students are preparing food, whether it be cultural foods, medical nutrition therapy, focused foods, and food science as well. So we do a bunch of food science experiments, and that's a wonderful opportunity for students to really be cooking alongside their peers and engaging with food, because we are the food and nutrition experts and need to know all about food. So that is a great class as well. And then that series ends in the first year, at the end of spring semester, students go into their food service management rotation and have the opportunity to actually train in one of these facilities and see, the distribution of food from purchasing to service, and really understanding the customer, and learning everything in between that purchasing to service. So it's a 7-week rotation, and students have a quality improvement project in there, and a sustainability project, and a menu development project. And so lots of fun projects in that rotation. We have a community and education series where, starting the second semester of the program, students take community nutrition course. The next year they take a counseling course, and then we have rotations in community and counseling. Both of these are supported by our medical nutrition therapy curriculum as well. And then our, professional focus in all of our courses, we're working on professionalism, as I mentioned, reading research papers, presenting, discussing topics, coming to class prepared. And so just, really working on those professional skills. But we do have a specific course set aside to provide time for students to prepare for the RD exam. And then we talk about professional practice topics. And this year we're going to be talking about some critical readings in dietetics and research papers that we feel students should know about before they enter practice. And I already mentioned the new teaching kitchen. So those are our courses, and also kind of ties into our supervised practice and how that supports our courses and curriculum. So this next slide really talks more about our rotations. And so I will go into that for you. So the rotations so it is a requirement when you are a graduate program or a future education program, that you offer both the supervised practice and the coursework in the same semester. So it's not just that we're in the same program, is that we're actually offering these the same semester. And that is something that's written into our accreditation requirements. So it doesn't have to be every single semester, but we have it in all semesters but one. So the supervised practice starts in year 1, but most of it is in year 2. So it starts really in that second semester of year 1 after spring break. And I'll show you that on the next slide. But what we offer is 16 or more. Most students are more like 17 to 20 weeks of inpatient clinical training in a hospital. So we do require this hospital training. We're training you to be healthcare providers, and we do have this focus on clinical. And this is really why we have this focus on clinical dietetics. It might be a little more than what other programs offer, but other programs offer 16 weeks as well. But 16 plus weeks of hospital training, 5 weeks of outpatient clinical training. So we're at 21 weeks of clinical if you include inpatient and outpatient. We have 5 weeks of a community nutrition rotation where students are in community-based programs like our Department of Public Health or the Women and Infant Children program or Head Start. 2 weeks on campus, which is really fun. Our students just started that this semester, and we're teaching nutrition to campus members. And so different groups request nutrition workshops. And so our students are doing that. We're doing food demos. We're bringing people into the kitchen and doing cooking and culinary education kind of workshops in this rotation as well. And we're also doing nutrition open hours where our graduate students are going to be working with students that kind of pop in and have nutrition questions. And so we're there to support them with that. So that was launched this fall and has been going well. And then we have 7 weeks of that food service management rotation where students are learning to be leaders and managers of large food service operations. So that's a good amount of supervised practice. It keeps our students very busy, but learning all aspects of dietetics. When students are in these rotations, it's about 32 hours per week. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And on Wednesdays, they are on campus in class. So again, we're supposed to offer these the same semester. So that means you have a course while you're also doing supervised practice. In year 2, when students are doing most of their supervised practice, there's just one class on those Wednesdays, and we contain it. And I'll show that kind of in the next slide, so students don't get too overwhelmed. Supervised practice means you're training under a dietitian for the most part. Sometimes in these food service management rotations, there'll be other qualified professionals running this, the kitchen and the space, but for the most part, they're registered dietitians, and you are learning to perform the work of the registered dietitian. So when you're in there, you know, it's not passive learning where you're shadowing and watching. You really, from day one, hit the ground running and are working on projects and training to do the work of the dietitian. So in those clinical rotations, you start screening patients, you start to, looking to see who you're going to see for that day, and you start to do patient visits really from the beginning. We prepare you for that if that sounds daunting, but it's not passive. So we need students to know, you're going to be busy 32 hours a week, really doing active training. All of our sites are within 40-mile radius of campus. And so that means San Francisco down to Burlingame to Fremont, Livermore, out to Concord and Martinez, and kind of back around the bay, even in the Marin County as well. So it's a nice radius, large enough where it gives us facilities for all students, but not too big where people have to travel too far to get to their training facilities. It's also important to note that students train at 2 to 3 sites. So for the most part, many of our facilities will take a student for food service management and inpatient and outpatient, and then they might go somewhere else for their community rotation. So we're not splitting up the rotations where in this 16 weeks of inpatient, you're going to 4 different facilities, plus a different, rotation for outpatient. It would just be very, very challenging to get students into all of these facilities because you have to onboard with all of these facilities and get into their computer system, and they check your immunizations and your background check and all sorts of paperwork. So, sometimes students feel like they're going to get every single opportunity out there, and you're going to get wonderful opportunities and meet lots of dietitians and preceptors, but be at 2 to 3 facilities on average. For those that do live further away from Berkeley, and if you're interested in Sacramento or Santa Clara County or Napa County, I think that's Sonoma County, but Napa, the city of Napa, we do have some facilities up there, and that would be something that students could opt into. No guarantee, but it's a possibility. I want to also mention, and this is important, that the Masters of Nutritional Science and Dietetics, the program that we're speaking about today, is not the only dietetics program here on campus. The School of Public Health also has a dietetic internship, and it's very public health focused. They do not have inpatient hospital training. So we're quite different in that they health and they, stay in that arena, and we are on that clinical side. So there is that option if you're, more public health focused. We do feel like we obviously have some good public health and community nutrition in our program as well, but it's important to mention that they have that program too. And to qualify for that program, you do have to have an undergrad in dietetics, so a DPD. This slide shows some of the facilities where our students go. I will just keep it up here for a few minutes, but a variety of campus partners, but a lot of community partners as well. So everything from clinical to community programs to food service management operations. So I keep alluding to what our curriculum sort of looks like, and this is a visual for you to really just try to understand what it is. So again, starting in fall of year 1, our students take a metabolism course, nutrition care process, research methods, food systems management. It's a 14-unit requirement. If you have not taken a metabolism course prior to coming into the program, you would be taking 16 units because we do have a requirement for an advanced metabolism class. That's one of our prerequisite requirements. But if you haven't taken it, you can take it concurrently and you'd be taking 16 units instead of 14. In spring of that first year, I mentioned community, foods, and medical nutrition therapy. So we also have our supervised practice, our management rotation at that time. So we have, what is that, 8, 9, 10, 11 units that happen before spring break. So community, foods, and medical nutrition therapy are really accelerated to be offered over 10 weeks and to be primarily finished by spring break, because after spring break, you go into your management rotation and you're there 4 days a week. So these are being offered the same semester, but we've really tried to kind of separate them some so students don't get too overwhelmed. So again, that is about 11 units that are happening before spring break. 11 units is not full time, but because it's accelerated, it is full time and it feels full time, right? We're condensing it into 10 weeks. And then those sort of end. There might be a little trickling on Wednesdays where students still might have some projects due or might meet with the class, but primarily after spring break, you're doing that supervised practice rotation. We do have this metabolic basis of human health and disease course that I mentioned, and it also is a prerequisite course. Students can take it before they come to campus. Most students have not taken it, and if they haven't taken it, they're taking that as well, and it can be 2 to 4 units depending on your background. And so that's, added units as well. Most of our students did that and they succeeded and did really well and enjoyed the course, and Carol can talk about that too. In the summer, students go into their capstone research projects for 11 units. Mary will talk about that. Fall of year 2, we just have our counseling class. It again is accelerated over 7 weeks. So it meets for 4 hours on Wednesdays for 7 weeks. And here we are, I feel like the semester just started, but our students are about to finish their counseling class because it is accelerated and fast. And at that same time, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, students are either in the hospital or they're doing their outpatient rotation, community rotation, and their campus rotation. Then these students switch. So in the spring, if they were in clinical, they would go into these other rotations. If they were in more of our education and community rotations, they would go into clinical. And they're taking a 2-unit class, our dietetic professional practice seminar, again, RD exam, and other professional practice topics. And students are taking here anywhere from 12 to 14 units. And then you graduate, which is super exciting, and that is coming down the pipeline. It's important to know we do have a program-specific academic calendar. It's on our website. Because we are offering the supervised practice, we have to work with our facilities and their schedules as well. So we don't always have our program doesn't always align with the academic calendar of the university, meaning we might start a little earlier in August. We might have to be in session a little bit in December. We might not have spring break. All of those dates are already published on our website. And it's turning out that most of our students do have spring break and we are following the calendar pretty well, but we do need to have that flexibility and students have to be available to really get all of this done. Oh, Mary, it's your turn. Tell us all about the summer research experience and our research series.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm back amid the trek across the street in the heat, although I feel like it's actually cooler outside than it is in my office right now. So it's a good thing we're on Zoom because I am quite toasty in here. But anyhow, hello again. I am Dr. Mary Lesser. I am your go-to person for the research experience for the MNSD program. And so I'm going to take this slide to kind of just go through a little bit of what to expect and also kind of highlight, highlight why this is kind of one of the, we consider one of the strengths of our program, and kind of go through a little bit more of like why it's also very unique to a dietetic internship or a even a combined program such as ours. So your research experience and the summer research experience actually really starts in the fall of your first year when you are taking the research methods and analysis course with me, just because it really is a course that focuses on the whole from bench to bedside. The focus is to really introduce everyone to the process of conducting nutrition research in a variety of settings, not just in a more wet lab molecular nutrition setting or in a clinical setting. It is really to kind of go through the general process. And with that, you're being introduced and learning different research methodologies to apply in food and nutrition sciences. You're also learning the basics around, combing and navigating the literature, how to critically read and evaluate literature, how to come to a consensus in terms of what that data says. You are also learning how to propose a research question, writing out hypotheses, specific aims, and you'll get to do that in a variety of settings. What's unique about our course is that we kind of focus definitely more primarily on clinical nutrition methodologies in the first half of the course. And then we also switch to more of more classic molecular nutrition methodologies. The students get to participate in a mini feeding trial. So taking basically going from proposing a question around a particular dietary pattern, proposing, writing out the menu, purchasing the food, making all the food, and a volunteer actually eating all the food, collecting specimens, and then following those samples to learn how we measure minerals, as well as blood glucose and such like that. So it is a big kind of introduction because it kind of lays the foundation of helping to introduce maybe what areas of nutrition you might be, nutrition research you might be interested in. You also get exposure to those that are in the field that do serve as capstone potential placements. So this is where we start to gather the information of like what might possibly be a project, what might possibly be your interest in being slated for a project. So that all starts in the fall. In the spring, although you aren't not necessarily taking a course, I am checking in with you because this is where we actually solidify, we present, as well as then solidify where your placement will be in the summer. And this can be in a variety of different settings. We have anything from our NST molecular nutrition labs. We had students that were working as part of UC ANR with the Nutrition Policy Institute. We had people that were placed at UCSF at the Parnassus campus. We had students that were placed at UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital working with the clinical dietitians and researchers. We had students that were working at Stanford University, and all of the projects kind of ran the gamut of different types of nutrition research: public health nutrition, community nutrition, food service, clinical nutrition, molecular nutrition, policy. So it really kind of runs the gamut of what your project or placement might look like. During spring semester, we kind of, in addition to confirming the placement, you do start on reviewing the literature in your area that you will be working with. You also start to really solidify your study or your whatever your project study would be, working alongside your PI or mentor, so that again, when you get into the summer, you're actually hitting the ground running. During spring semester, I'll be working one-on-one with you for onboarding and helping you to be able to navigate wherever your placement is in particular. And then we get to the summer. And the summer is when you're actually 100% like hit the ground. We are there in our experience working one-on-one with our teams or one-on-one with our research mentor or PI. And so again, everyone's experience is going to be very unique because it really depends on the project itself. But during the summer, as Mikkel just introduced to you all, that is the only thing that you are doing. You're not taking any other classes. So 100% of your time is dedicated to capstone. It is a 10-week experience. It does go by very quickly. There are assignments throughout the course that are in line with what the project is that you're working on. And that's because if we kind of think about the summer capstone research experience, that is almost like the supervised practice of research per se, because of course in the classroom we can only evaluate and assess your competencies in the classroom, whereas like when you're out in the real world in like the capstone sense, then we can actually see you continuously meeting those expectations. But once you are there in the summertime, you are running your projects, collecting the data, you are then analyzing the data, interpreting it, and you are writing it up in a way because at the end, our culminating event is that all students will present their capstone research results and their project. And I see Michaela is highlighting here what that looks like. And so this is one of our students here with her poster. Students do present in either podium, so like a traditional oral presentation or poster presentation, their work. And it was a very fun event at the end of the summer. Carol can share her experience as well with that. But it was fun to highlight everybody's hard work over the summer and kind of what they came up with and all the learning experiences. So, and that pretty much wraps up your research experience. I know we got to include some of the fun photos up here. Some of these are from class. Up here's the bod pod. So we do learn about how to do body composition methodologies. We have four different ones that you get introduced to and get to do on yourself, not only in research methods, but you then get to touch on them again in another class. We did do some indirect calorimetry. Those are our students from our second year cohort now. And then you can see when you're actually in the lab running data. I think this is one of our students who actually is in her capstone research experience in this one at a lab at UCSF. And then again, our student presenting with her PI of the lab that she worked with. So anyhow, I know that I'll be hanging around to answer questions and such, but it's really exciting. My kind of role I like to think of is that I know a lot of times research is scary to most people, but it's not. It can be fun, exciting, and also I think most importantly, as Mikkel kind of brought up early on, it is part of our mission. It is something that should be part of your role as a dietitian in the future in this profession. And so that's also what I feel is one of my goals, is to make sure that we know like how to participate and engage in those activities, even if we're not the one leading the lab per se. So that's it for me.
All right, it's my turn. So as Mikkel mentioned earlier, my name is Alicia. I'm the program coordinator and education specialist for this program, and I work closely with our students and supporting them in various aspects throughout their journey here in the program. And I am going to talk about the culture here in the MNSD program. And I really want to open up with really emphasizing that I believe that we really do a good job of fostering a positive learning environment that is both supportive and really just there's this eagerness to learn. And I think it's just a great place to be at. Our faculty and staff are really approachable, they're kind, that we all want everyone to succeed and achieve their fullest potential. With that said, as Mikkel mentioned earlier, we do have high standards for both professional behavior and academics. And we believe that our students, they're the future of the dietetics, they're the change makers. And we want to make sure that we prepare you for dietetics, but to also thrive in dietetics. And so how do we do this and how are we achieving this? And so we do this by having small cohorts. We admit about 20 to 22 students in each cohort. So we keep our classes small. We also provide mentoring, so a ratio of 4 to 1 students. 4 to 1 student to faculty mentor ratio. We also provide regular advising and rotation check-ins. We have a pretty amazing, I would call pretty robust enrichment series with amazing speakers who are experts in their fields. We also offer field trips, more specifically in the food service management class that our students take. They go to places like the Food Service Technology Center, they go to Cal Dining, they go to UCSF Food Services, they go to the USDA Agriculture Research Center, Del Monte. There's this company based out of Berkeley called TCHO, if you've heard of them before, they go there as well. So lots of really great opportunities there. There's also socials, different ways for students to stay connected. And so our MNSD reps, lead these socials, and our last social was this summer at Tilden Park. So the picture that we have at the bottom right, that was, our Tilden Park social. So we started off with a hike and then ended with a picnic, and we also played board games, and it was just so much fun. We also offer opportunities for leadership, which is important too. And so we offer opportunity in the form of being an MNSD rep, representing your cohort. We also, there's also this opportunity to represent our program for BETA, and BETA is the Bay Area Dietetics District Association. And also a lot of us are members and leaders in what we call DPGs, dietetic practice groups, and MIGs, which are member interest groups. And we like to connect our students to those leadership opportunities as well. Thank you. So here we have our enrichment agenda from the last academic year in 2023 to 2024. So as you can see, a lot of really great topics, and our enrichments are offered both in person and over Zoom. This week we had the ICU critical care dietitian over from UCSF do an enrichment this week. Upcoming enrichments include, we have DRIs. We also have Bradley Johnston, who's coming in from Texas, who's going to be talking to our students about evidence-based practice, which is really cool. So those are just a few to name, but we have a lot of really great speakers coming in the next semester as well. So expanding on the culture here in Berkeley. So UC Berkeley really is known and for innovative thinking, right? Innovation. And so we value that. And we also value top quality research and public service. And so there's a lot of opportunities to connect and get involved with innovation that's happening here on campus. And so I encourage students that when you're first here, especially in the first semester, when you're here full time, meaning that you're taking all your classes here, you're here full time, to really take advantage of these opportunities and make those connections early on. And so here are some of those examples. So the Berkeley Food Institute is a great organization. They essentially what they do is they connect UC resources and partner with the community to really help with like the food system and farming as well. We also have the seminar series, which is hosted by our department, Nutritional Science and Toxicology, and they have these seminars that are held on most Wednesdays at 4 o'clock here. And this series is a great way for students to learn about the latest research in nutritional science, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, some of the research that they show hasn't even been published yet, so that's also, you know, pretty amazing to sit in on. There's the Nutrition Policy Institute, and they help to improve federal nutrition programs and policies, structural changes in food systems, and help improve physical and social environments. We also have the Alt Meat Lab, which is a hub that connects a variety of stakeholders like students and entrepreneurs and industry leaders who are interested in creating plant-based food for the future. There's a lot of sustainability efforts happening around campus. And so an example of that is Cal Dining. They're really focused on plant-forward cooking and prioritizing ingredients that are socially responsible and in alignment with the sustainability that's occurring everywhere on campus. We have our students complete a sustainability project in their food service management rotation. There's also the Basic Needs Center, we call it BNC. And so the BNC really helps support students and with resources such as food, housing, financial stability. And we actually partner with them in our Cal campus community rotation, doing food demos with them. And then we also partner with them doing the nutrition open hours that Mikkel had mentioned, which is a really unique experience to be able to like connect with students here on campus and be able to provide that nutrition coaching. And then, of course, last but not least, Cal Athletics, which offers a variety of services for student athletes. And our program offers an elective rotation with Cal Athletics if you're interested in sports nutrition. So again, you know, these are all great ways to connect with the campus in terms of innovation. And if you take the initiative, you can make that happen here. So UC Berkeley is very well known for its commitment to excellence and is one of the top public universities. Historically, we've been ranked number 1. This year, we're ranked number 2, but always, you know, we're always ranked pretty high. And so we have had over 60 Nobel Prize winners over the course of history between both faculty and alumni. We have over 33,000 undergraduate students and 12,621 graduate students. UC Berkeley offers 350 degree programs and then 120 graduate majors. Our own department has a pretty rich history in nutrition and has been training nutrition professionals since 1960. I'm sorry, 1916.
Much different.
Very different. So our campus and Bay Area life is pretty amazing. And maybe I'm a little biased, but I have a lot of love for our campus life and our Bay Area life. And so if you've never been to UC Berkeley campus, it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, we have tall, majestic redwood trees, eucalyptus trees, and then there's like very old but very elegant architecture, and it's just so inspiring. You walk through campus, you're just naturally inspired. So it's a great place to be in. It's a great place to study. Sometimes you'll hear the marching band in the background. You could walk by a protest. You could see students laying on the grass on beautiful sunny days, which are often here. And so needless to say, we just, it's a great place to be at. Berkeley, the
And
city.
you can go up in the Campanile and you can go
Oh,
to the
yeah.
bell tower. Yes.
Exactly. Yes, that's so nice. And so I live in Berkeley and I get to hear the bell from that the Campanile Tower, and it's just amazing. I love it. It's a great treat. And then yeah, you can go up on it. So Berkeley, the city itself, it's a foodie's paradise. I mean, so campus is right next to downtown, so you can find so many great places to eat. And if you walk a little bit north on Shattuck, you hit North Berkeley, a really well-known area where there's a lot of famous restaurants, including Chez Panisse, which is Alice Waters' restaurant known for the farm to table movement in California. So again, foodie's paradise. But going back to campus life, Sproul Plaza is really the heart of the campus life. So if you go in this area, you can find a lot of different like clubs and organizations who have booths there, and there's just a lot happening there. And with that said, I mean, again, there's opportunities for, there's a lot of clubs and organizations that you might want to be a part of and contribute to campus life in that manner. UC Berkeley is also known for the free speech movement, which is a massive student protest that happened during the 60s. And so you can still see this influence today that, in that the university supports finding your community and having a voice. And so, I mentioned protests. I mean, it's all peaceful and dandy, but just FYI. And of course, it's pretty easy to explore the Bay Area. There's a lot of great public transportation here. You can take BART, you can take Muni, you can take the AC Transit, which is this bus below. And it's pretty easy to navigate around here. Okay, so, expanding on, the Bay Area. So the Bay Area is urban, meaning that it is a heavily populated area. And so I think that there's a lot of pros, but I think it's important to also note, some of the cons along with that. So I mentioned earlier, public transportation. We have great public transportation here. Most folks around here take public transportation, and it is very, very common to commute. Most people commute around the Bay Area, like in terms of their job. And so that's normal here. Again, we have great food. San Francisco has great food. It's so easy to get to San Francisco by just taking BART. You can take BART very easily here. We have BART is like our transportation service, and it's really fast and it's affordable, and you can just make it into the city very easily. There's a lot of beautiful parks and recreation around here. In San Francisco, there's Golden Gate Park, and here in Berkeley, we have Tilden Park. So if you're a nature lover, if you like hikes, we've got a lot of great, like outdoor recreation here. Lots of festivals and events that are free. There's a lot of diversity here, which I think is absolutely amazing. And so if it's pretty easy to find diverse and cultural foods here. So that's a huge plus for me. But again, it's densely populated, so it can be noisy, it could be congested, and there's a higher crime rate. But I think as long as you're safe about going around the Bay Area, knock on wood, I haven't had anything happen, but you just want to be safe about things, and usually things are okay. But I think it is important to note that, so don't be surprised if you hear about that. I would definitely I think it's really important to ask yourself, like, are you comfortable with living in an urban area, especially if you come from like a rural or a suburban area? I think that's a very an important question to be honest with yourself about. Now, I mentioned there's a lot of pros to living in the Bay Area, and there's a lot of pros to being on campus, but it all comes at a price tag. So I think it's also important to note that it is expensive to live in the Bay Area. So just wanted to note that.
All right, thanks for leading into fees and financing, and we'll look at that housing as well. I do want to just say you mentioned that it's very common to commute to work in the Bay Area, and all of our facilities and where we place students are places that working professionals would commute to as well. So it is a commuting community, I would say. So thank you for bringing that up. All right. So the program charges $963 per unit, and we require 66 units to graduate. Every year, it's thought that fees will go up by about 3%. And so next year, fees will probably be $992 per unit. There are various fees every semester from the campus. So any semester, you're looking at about $12,000 to $15,000. But looking at the entire program, 21 months, fees plus program fees and tuition, $63,558. You can waive out of the health insurance requirement that comes every semester if you have equivalent health insurance. So that can save a significant amount of money every semester. We do have 2 prerequisite courses that you can take concurrently. And if you take them concurrently, that's outside of the 66 units. So that's an additional $963 per unit. So you can take them elsewhere or you can take them here. But if you do take them here, you're going to have to pay for that. So that is about half the tuition or that is half the fees. And the other part is living, of course. So there are one-time fees that we have just to get into these facilities. Background check, immunizations, different certifications that you need before you start, basic life support and ServSafe certifications. And so those fees, and then of course living as well. So for this academic year, 24-25, the university estimated that it would cost $19,000 for the entire academic year. Okay, good. Food, $10,000, and then different expenses as well, including travel. You do need a car to get to these practice facilities. So you should definitely not come thinking you're going to have every rotation right next to campus, because that is not going to happen. So in all, living expenses are about $30,000 per year. So given it's almost 2 years, that's $60,000. So with the 63,000, you're looking at about $123,000 for the cost of the entire program. Housing is relative, so yes, the Bay Area is expensive, but California is expensive. So just living in California, if I picked, this is from the UC Office of the President, picked a 3-bedroom housing unit and you had your own room. This is Berkeley, would be about $1,100 per month. And looking at the other UC campuses, we're pretty much on par, and surprisingly, if not lower, I don't believe that, but on par at least with the other UC campuses. So just living in California is quite expensive. So you need to be prepared to pay those fees to live here, and then also those program fees as well. So again, just the 40-mile radius showing you this. We do have public transportation with BART, but it's not the best in that facilities are often off of the BART line. And so how do you get from BART to the facilities? Some of them have shuttles, but not all of them do. So would you take an Uber from, the BART station to the facility? Perhaps, but, I think you're going to have to figure that out. So Ubers or a car or whatever it may be, but you do need to get yourself to these various facilities. Carol actually can speak about, somebody asked a question about living in the San Jose area. And so she can speak about that commute because she has done that commute before. So financing, scholarships, and appointments. How do we pay for this? I wish I could say we had enough money for everybody and that it was a free program. Wouldn't that be amazing? But unfortunately, that's just not the case. So there are loans that you can take for the program. Of course, you have to pay back loans, but you have to complete the FAFSA for eligibility for federal loans. It's my understanding that only U.S. citizens and permanent residents are eligible for the federal loans, and international students would need to take private loans and secure those loans outside of the university. I'm not an expert on loans. There's so much information at Berkeley Financial Aid, and the webpage is right there. So there are loans. We do offer a few scholarships. So we have 3 $10,000 scholarships that we offer our year 1 students. And those are for students who have an understanding of diverse groups and diverse experiences and are going to help contribute to our understanding of diversity at UC Berkeley and within the profession. So just you can apply for that scholarship in your application. And we will be informing those that applied if they receive this scholarship during the admissions process. So you will know with your admissions process if you are receiving this scholarship. And on our webpage, actually on the application, there's a hyperlink providing directions on how to apply for this scholarship. We also have offer smaller department awards throughout the 2 years, anywhere from $500 to $1,000. Not 100, but although we do have $100 award as well. So various amounts for things like attending a professional conference, or even before your supervised practice, there might be additional unexpected expenses like an extra little handbook they want you to buy, or maybe you need to do a new TB test, or other things that come up. And so we do, as long as funds are available, provide a smaller award to help cover some of those fees. We also have graduate student instructor, researcher, and reader and tutor hours available. We have secured 3 graduate student instructor appointments, and similar to the scholarship, these will go out with the offer of admission. So you will know if you received a graduate student instructor position at that time before you have to let us know if you accept the offer of admission. There are other positions available, but they're not guaranteed. So we're awarding additional appointments even right now to students that didn't think they were going to get one, but we can't guarantee it. But what we can do is guarantee 3. The wonderful thing about being a graduate student instructor is you get partial tuition reimbursement. So you get about $11,000 that goes towards your tuition. Plus you get a salary of about $15,000 over the semester. So it's a wonderful financial award, but you do have to do the work, and it's a 20-hour per week appointment, and our program is full time. And as I mentioned, our classes are a little bit, full, and students are on campus a long time. So also working 20 hours per week, it's doable. We have students do it every year, but it's hard, and it's a lot of work. So, we also have some needs-based work study. So if you submit a FAFSA, you might learn that you are eligible for work study, and there are various work study appointments on campus, which is wonderful. Readers and tutors make an hourly wage, but no tuition reimbursement. And a lot of our students are readers and tutors. So it's a job, but it's not the same financial award as being a graduate student instructor. And I already mentioned that you can lower your fees with the health insurance waiver. You can find that online. So admissions and applications. Let's see here. So what are we looking for? We're looking for students that align with our mission, students that want to be here, want to learn, want to be involved, lean into everything that we have to offer, and are just really excited to be part of the profession. So going back to our mission, we really are looking for people that can portray that this is what they want to do, and that they really want to become a registered dietitian. I mean, that first and foremost, we're looking for people that really know what a registered dietitian does, and that they want to engage in that profession. We're looking for students that want to train in all areas of dietetics, because we have it all. We have food service management, community, outpatient, inpatient, but also know that they're going to be in that clinical setting for 16 plus weeks, that inpatient acute care setting, and 5 weeks of outpatient. So they really want that clinical background. They don't necessarily have to want to be a clinical dietitian, but they have to value that clinical training and really want to have that experience, which I know not every student necessarily feels that way. So we want to see that in our students as well. We want students that, again, are engaged and inquisitive, and they're curious. They want to know the whys. They're motivated. They take responsibility for their own learning. This is a fast-paced, full program. A lot of moving parts with the supervised practice and the coursework and the research. And so, asking yourself, am I learning? Why am I doing this? Why is this important? And really taking responsibility to make sure that they are getting everything out of the program that they can. have to be self-aware and open to self-reflection. You're working with lots of people in a variety of workplace facilities. And so you need to know what you're bringing to that facility and how others are receiving you, and be open to accepting constructive criticism, because you get evaluated a lot, and that's part of that professional development. So midpoint evaluations, final evaluations, daily evaluations really from your preceptors just on the work that you're doing. So it's wonderful, but you have to have thick skin and be able to accept it and implement that feedback, quickly. Students need to be organized and have strong time management skills. Again, we're accomplishing a lot of projects, a lot of assignments. It's doable. You just have to, organize yourself and jump right in, again, being an engaged student. I think in this profession, it's important to have strong interpersonal skills. We are working in teams, interdisciplinary teams of all sorts. And so just really being able to communicate with your cohort and your preceptors and the individuals in your facilities. And be flexible as well. Things change. We have these wonderful plans, and I don't know if you all know this, but we really just launched 2 years ago. So our first cohort is ending. We'll be graduating this May, but they're still in our program. We really just started our second cohort. So you all would be our third cohort. And we have all these wonderful plans, and so far it's all, going as planned, but things change. One of our preceptors has to go on jury duty. So guess what? The student has to shift, pivot, go somewhere else. We just need to remain flexible because there's a lot to do and life is, full of unknowns. So let's talk about the admissions criteria. This is all on our webpage, but good to go through. Any bachelor's, so student from any bachelor's degree are welcome to apply as long as they've met our prerequisite courses. In the last two cohorts, cohorts that we have, it's interesting, 50% of students come from a nutrition and dietetics background and 50% do not. That was not planned by us. It just happened that is how it worked out. And it's actually wonderful to have this mixed classroom, people coming in with different backgrounds in marketing, communications, public health, molecular and cellular biology, architecture. We do have career changers, a small handful, I would say, of career changers every year. And then also having our nutrition students that, are students that have that nutrition background. So they really get to learn from one another and bring these backgrounds into the classroom. So the prerequisites, we do require general chemistry, organic chemistry, biochemistry, physiology, microbiology, and 2 additional science courses in the biology or chemistry domain. So that can be anatomy, it can be biology. Some universities don't require biology, but it could be biology, it could be molecular and cellular biology. And then in chemistry, usually students take like general chemistry 1 and 2 or organic 1 and 2. And so that's the way to meet those. That's a lot of science classes because we are a science-based profession and we are healthcare providers and we're doing research and we need to have this foundation. It might be 1 extra course beyond what some of you have if you're doing an undergrad in dietetics. But we just really want our students to have a strong science foundation. And so students often will take 1 more of these science classes in the spring or summer before they actually start the program. So if you're in a dietetic undergrad degree and you don't have all of these, you still can take, 1 of them, a couple of them in the spring or summer before you enter the program. We also require 5 science labs. So many of these courses come with labs, but as you saw some of our students working in the lab for their research, you have to have some familiarity with research labs and science labs. So we still train you. They learned a lot over the summer. They are not coming in as experts by any stretch, but they're learning. And so it's great. You do need to take intro to nutrition, statistics, psychology, and then these 2 prerequisites, advanced metabolism and the metabolic basis of human health and disease. So advanced metabolism is found at many universities and you can take it elsewhere. The metabolic basis of human health and disease is pretty unique to UC Berkeley. The people that have taken it as a prerequisite basically are our UC Berkeley undergrads that are coming into our program. That's why we do offer it concurrently. You can take it concurrently while in the program for 2 units. So it is an add-on, but it's a really important class, and we want all of our students to have this. We look for students that have some type of volunteer, research, or work experience. We do prefer nutrition-related experience if you have it, but it's not absolutely required. But anything outside of the classroom, because we are putting students into these professional work sites, and you need to, kind of have experienced that before you get into that space. Oh, I knew there was another picture of the kitchen, so we're very proud of our kitchen. It's been a lot of work, and so it's wonderful to see it done. 3 letters of recommendation, 2 of them from professors or instructors. 2 personal statements. I'll show that on the next slide. Your resume. You can upload a writing sample or a school project if you want. It's not required. Tip: complete the entire application before you submit it. So all of these things that I've listed here are required on the application, and just make sure that you do that, because you can submit it without it being complete, and then we're missing pieces of the application. You also need to upload all of your transcripts. So if you took classes at a community college or multiple community colleges or universities, we need to see all of those because we want to see your grades in all of your courses. And then we have an interview as well that happens in January or February. We do look at 4 different GPAs: your cumulative GPA, which is on your undergrad transcript; advanced GPA, which is the last 2 years of your undergraduate degree. If you had 5 years, it took you 5 years, it's the last 2 years. So whatever that may be. There's a GPA called GPA for courses in your major field of study. You'll see that on the application. That's pretty flexible and fluid. So any courses you think are related to nutrition and dietetics. And then we look at a prerequisite GPA. And this place on the application, this placeholder says, if your intended field of study was not your major for your undergraduate degree, what is that GPA? That's a very weird name, but this is where we're looking for our prerequisite GPA. And how we really figure this out, even if you don't list it there, we recalculate this for every student. So we have a prerequisite GPA calculator. It's on our FAQ page. It's also on the application. We list all of our prerequisite courses, and you just need to go in and list the title, the term, the grade, and the units, and your prerequisite GPA will pop up. We ask you to turn this into a PDF and upload it, and then we recalculate all of them as well. There's also an advanced GPA calculator if you want to look at that. Again, that's the last 2 years of your 4-year degree. 2 statements. One is a statement of purpose. One is your personal history statement. They're not the same thing. Your statement of purpose is, why do you want to go to grad school? Why do you want to be in our program? Why do you want to become a dietitian? We really want to, see that the program, you've been to this open house, you know what we're offering. It makes you excited and passionate about nutrition and dietetics. And we want to see your enthusiasm come through. Your personal history is asking you to dive a little bit deeper into your personal background and experiences and how that has shaped you into studying graduate degree. And you can here talk about some of your experiences and barriers to higher education. These are both required statements from UC Berkeley. You should go to this. I'm going to post these slides. I'm going to post this presentation. And if you want some help on your personal statement, I thought this was an excellent website and reference where it talks about the do's and the don'ts and just kind of gets you thinking about these statements. And so this is through our Career Center. Actually, it's open to the public. And again, I will post these on our webpage, on our homepage, this presentation. Additional tips about our application. So the application is not complete until all of the required sections and materials are uploaded and you've paid. So it's important, again, to complete all of those sections. We don't need your official transcripts. Unofficial transcripts are fine. We will need your official transcripts after you are admitted into the program. this is important to us. So you may not have all the prerequisites done, and that's fine. You might be taking some this fall and the spring and the summer. Let us know what your plan is. You can put that on the prerequisite table. There's a comment section. You can indicate that there, or there's some free text box on the program page. And so in that free text area, you can just tell us what your plans are for the prerequisites. Also on that prerequisite table, it's nice to know if the class had a lab, because very often it'll be like general chemistry for 5 units. I mean, now I know that has a lab, but it's nice if you write it in parentheses like this included a lab. So we just are able to track the labs that you've taken. We do not require the GRE. We're not participating in the Dietetic Internship Centralized Application System, or DICAS. We will be next year because it's a requirement, but not this year. And it's also important to note you can only apply to one UC Berkeley graduate program each cycle. So I mentioned there is the School of Public Health has a dietetic internship. To be eligible for that, you actually have to be admitted into their Masters of Public Health. So you can only apply to their Masters of Public Health or our program or any other program that you're interested on campus, but you can only apply to one program, one graduate program per cycle. In terms of admissions, the application deadline is December 17th, 8:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The system shuts down. We'll do interviews in mid to late January and early February. All dietetic programs now have to tell you by March 1st if you were admitted. And then it's a very quick turnaround where you need to decide and let us know by March 15th. That is standard across all supervised practice dietetics programs. So you should be seeing these dates from other programs as well. Our orientation is at the end of August, and classes also start at the end of August. And now it's Carol's turn. So Carol Thalley, thank you again for being here. She is our one of our second year students. She is our MNSD class representative, along with AJ, who's here in the middle. And she's just been a wonderful leader and student in our program. And so thank you, Carol, for being here to share your perspective. I'll leave these quotes up here, but let's hear what you want to share.
Thank you, Mikal, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. It is wonderful to be here today. I think you've highlighted the program wonderfully, but I will bring some of my aspects as a student and as a MNSD representative. So yeah, hi, I'm Carol Thalley, and I am part of the second year cohort. And it's been such a pleasure to be part of the very first cohort of the program. I'm going to highlight like some of the things about the MNSD program and why I chose Berkeley. So first of all, this is a comprehensive curriculum. So the MNSD program is clinically focused, like Mikal mentioned before. We do have lots of discussions and projects, and we are in an active learning environment. We are talking to our peers. We are having a chance to collaborate with each other, which is wonderful, which is a big part of being a dietitian, right? We do collaborate with multiple healthcare workers. So it's very important that we learn that from the beginning, especially being in school, while we are getting trained. We do have a focus in research, and Mary highlighted some of the research opportunities that we have with her class for the research methods and for the capstone. So she mentioned the clinical feeding trial. I was part of the clinical feeding trial. I was what I called like a mouse lab, I guess. So I was one of the students that volunteered to be part of the feeding trial for like 1 week. So we did a very cool experiment, and we did multiple lab techniques and like ELISA and Western blots and whatnot. So it is a wonderful class. We learned a lot, especially if you are doing that as your capstone project. So there's tons of room for learning more about research methods and applying that as well. So for the supervised practice, I know there were some very interesting questions on the chat. Just a background, I am an international student, so this program is eligible for international students. I know that was one question in the chat about that. And also for the supervised practice, we do have many opportunities to engage with different facilities. So for my food management rotation, I did mine with Berkeley Dining. So I was on campus, I was active and involved with the campus community. So that was a great experience. And for my inpatient and outpatient, I'm actually in Santa Clara Medical Center in San Jose. I know that was another question about living in San Jose and commuting to Berkeley, and it's doable. I do it every day. So yes, it's just have to get used to the Bay Area traffic, but it is completely doable. And for the rotation, because I am in San Jose, Mikhail gave me a chance to do an interview with Santa Clara Valley Medical Center. And I am doing my inpatient and outpatient with them right now. So that's a little bit about the supervised practice. I know probably have many questions about, especially clinical, because our program is clinically focused. So if you have any other questions, you can put on the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. Before the capstone project, I was with Stanford this summer. And it was such a great networking opportunity and being able to apply my research and critical thinking skills and make a poster presentation, just do the presentation with everyone. Yeah, like Mary mentioned, we have the chance to present research and, potentially present this in a conference. So I know there is the ASN and FNCE. You are familiar, if you're familiar with those conferences. And that is an opportunity that we have, being able to do a research project and then take that to the next level and present that in a professional conference. My other favorite part about this program are the seminars and field trips. I know a couple of them were mentioned throughout the presentation, but it's just such a great networking opportunity. And I think that's one of the best parts about like being in the Bay Area, being with Berkeley, right? We do have many like experts in many fields like coming to do talks, and you network with them, like you talk directly with those wonderful RDs that have been working in the field for years, and they have such just great point of views to like talk about their expertise and just keep us updated with like nutrition, dietetics. But yeah, so networking opportunities and just building that professionalism and being able to connect with different people. And I think the last thing I want to mention is like how supportive the environment is. Our administration and professors are highly, highly supportive. They are here to help us. They do offer like regular advising, mentoring. They're always checking on us. It is a very fast-paced program, but on the other hand, we do have great support. And they do prepare us to do it. We do have like everything that is needed to go hit the ground running and just apply our skills and have support throughout the whole experience, right? So at the end of this program, you will be able to sit down, take your RD exam, and just be ready to be a dietitian. But just keep in mind that some of the skills that we definitely have to have as students is Mikhail mentioned many of the skills that we do have to have, but be motivated and taking criticism and feedback is very, very important, and be flexible because especially when you are doing your rotations, you are working with dietitians. They are there to just support you and help you throughout your hours and give you all the knowledge that they can. But it is a privilege to be there to work with those experts. So be flexible, understand that they are very busy people, and just remember that they will give you feedback. You're there to learn, just absorb everything, don't take it personally, and just grow from it, right? So yeah, so those are some of the highlights. I could just stay here and just talk forever, but if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Like I mentioned before, I am an international student. I live in San Jose, so I commute. I was a GSI, so if you have any questions about that, I can talk a little bit about my experience as a GSI over the spring. I know Mikhail brought up a few points, but yeah, I'm available. I'm here. I'm a student, and I'm very excited to meet everyone and yeah, meet the future cohort. Thank you, Mikhail.